Puppuccino on the go.
There's still Jello everywhere. It's in his fur.
He licks his nose like 20,000 times a day. He'll get it off. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode by Bren World, and this review here is pretty darn long, so I'm pretty much just going to get right into it. Yeah, so welcome to the new day vlog. So here we go with my review for The Punisher. Like I said I was going to do in the description on the last day vlog, where I did the review for Justice League on, or not on the last day vlog, the last vlog type thing. But yeah, anyway, so Marvel The Punisher is the latest addition to the Netflix Marvel Universe and is the first solo season for the character of Frank Castle / The Punisher, who was first introduced on Daredevil Season 2. Anyway, it stars Jon Bernthal, who has also been on Sicario, Fury, Baby Driver, etc., as Frank Castle / The Punisher, Ebon Moss-Bachrach as David Lieberman / Micro, Amber Rose Reva as Dina Madani, Ben Marns as Billy Russo, Paul Scholes as Rollins, and Danny Weber as Lewis Wilson. So first off, who is Frank? Well, Frank Castle / The Punisher is a Marine veteran that went on a dangerous mission in Afghanistan that got many men killed in a recording of him shooting an innocent man on his boss's orders was taken. So when he got back to camp, Rollins asked him if they got the job done, which makes Frank mad, so he punches him in the eye, leaving it scarred for life, and then he has a lighter blue iris. But his good friend Billy pulls him into the next room where he yells at him, and once Castle gets back home, the evil Marine people from the terrorist group named Anvil comes to his house just as his wife, Maria Castle, played by Kelly Barrett, comes to wake him up, and they shoot her right in front of him, and his kids have already been killed. Which leaves him living only to find who did it and punish them. And throughout the season, his dream of that memory repeatedly comes back, revealing more and more of the story each time. So from now on, there will be spoilers from The Punisher Season 1. So it starts off with him burning his vest, growing out his hair and beard, and becoming a construction worker where he breaks down walls with his sledgehammer all day, every day, driven by his memory of his family being killed and his memories of them at a carousel. He gets bullied by a group of men, but he holds his cool, and one day the leader of the group kicks his lunchbox and then steps on his sandwich as he's walking away. And by then, I insanely hated them and wanted them to die horrible deaths. Anyway, the new guy, Donnie Chavez, played by Luca de Oliveira, goes up to the top of the cement complex, where Frank eats lunch, talks to him, and gives him one of his sandwiches. And later on, he makes a bad decision to go with the group of the men to rob some men from the Nucci clan, which could be setting up a future villain, which is Ma Nucci. Anyway, Donnie drops his driver's license, and so they all have to get out of there. Frank shows up later, turns off their power, and shoots every one of the men. Once they get back to the complex, they all start beating Donnie and turn on the cement mixer to throw him into, which they then do. But then, in an epic scene, Frank shows up and finally starts smashing each one of the men's knees with his hammer, and killing them one by one, and then escapes right after saving Donnie. And that scene was the first big fight scene in the show, and was very chilling. Anyway, for the rest of the season, we never see any of the men or Donnie for the rest of the season. But Frank is still in hiding from his wanted vigilante status from Daredevil Season 2, eats at a diner, and gets a phone call from a man watching him from outside. He chases him, but finds a note, a flashlight, and a mirror, and finds the man on top of the other building across the road, and then he leaves. We later figure out that the man is David Lieberman, nicknamed Micro or Microchip, who was stuck in traffic with his wife Sarah, played by Jamie Ray Newman, and his son and daughter Zach, played by Kobe Frumer, and Leo, played by Ridley Sobo. Then he got out and ran because he was being tracked down by the police, and then gets shot in the upper chest to fall into the river behind him in front of Sarah. So for one whole year, he is hiding underground in a trashed area place that almost looks like an old Hydra base underneath Queens, New York, where Frank marks his ground, with Daredevils being Hell's Kitchen, Luke Cage's being Harlem, Iron Fist being downtown New York City, and Jessica Jones's being just out of downtown. He has a few monitors where he secretly watches his family through cameras behind a painting in their dining room. At first, I thought he was going to be the main enemy, but he ends up being Frank's man in the chair. For the rest of the season, after some bickering, and every once in a while, Frank goes to Sarah and talks to her for David. We are then introduced to the character of Dina Modani, an NYPD detective that is on her own little hunt for Frank Castle, along with her partner, Sam Stein, played by Michael Nathanson. And along with everything else going on, now a man named Lewis Wilson from Frank's group therapy, led by a pretty big character throughout the season, Curtis Hoyle, played by Jason R. Moore, has officially broke. He is also a veteran that is insanely mentally scarred which isn't too apparent at first, but there's this other guy from the group that is always dissing on the government and claiming that he is a Vietnam veteran, but he is later figured out to just be a stolen valor man that just bought fake military medals. So at his house, him and Lewis get into a fight where Lewis eventually stabs him, and you could see his regret after the first stab, but then he grins and stabs multiple more times. And then he starts making pressure cooker bombs and tons of other types of bombs. He blows up a newspaper place that Karen Page, Matt Murdock / Daredevil's girlfriend, and so now she is getting at him on the radio and the paper, which makes him start going harder. Curtis goes to the man's house and finds the man wrapped up in a shower curtain, and then him and Lewis get into a fight where he is winning at first, but then gets his face smashed repeatedly by a boot by Lewis, and he wakes up with a bomb vest on. Frank finds him, and they talk for a little bit, and over the phone he talks to Lewis, who is looking at him from right outside. He yells at him with the police coming, and so he eventually tells him which wire to cut. Frank cuts it, then runs in an epic, very well-directed chase scene with him having to kill or at least knock out a few cops. But he gets caught and out all over the news, and so now everyone knows that the Punisher is still alive. David is at a bar with Dina and sees it on the TV. So basically, while the actual main villains are slowly being uncovered, Lewis is pretty much the main bad guy. His dad is very nice and tries to talk to him and get his mind back to normal, but he just leaves him every time, and one time Lewis goes down to his room and puts a pistol in his mouth, but doesn't shoot. So later on, there's one of the best episodes in my opinion, which is episode 10, Virtue of the Vicious, where it is told from different perspectives at a hotel-type place where Billy is talking to his former girlfriend Dina. Lewis sets off his bombs that were stuck to a door where a big official is... along with where a big official is, along with two guards and Karen. He kills everyone except for those two and shoots at the man right as Frank takes his bullet to the vest. It then goes to a stairwell where Billy, Frank, and Dina have a standoff, but all get found by police right after Frank gets his head skimmed by Billy's bullet. Later, Lewis takes Karen hostage and gets away from everyone repeatedly because he threatens them with a bomb vest on him. So, once Frank finds them, he talks to Lewis as he secretly makes head movements at Karen on which wire to pull. Eventually, she gets to the white one, and he yells, "Now!" She pulls it, and Lewis starts running to the kitchen freezer, and then locks himself in. Karen runs out, while Frank talks to Lewis, putting the white wire back in, and eventually he pulls it, and it explodes, which is quiet at first, but then the door of the freezer blows off covered in blood and flames knock Castle back. So yeah, that was a very well-directed, emotion-filled episode. Some other episodes that I liked a lot for certain reasons were Gunner, where Frank and a man named Gunner get attacked in a forest while seemingly hunting by Anvil soldiers and must fight with what they have, leaving Gunner dead and Frank badly injured. And I also love the first episode, 3 a.m., and the last 3 episodes, but honestly, this season was all good, with only a few slow parts and very, very few flaws. The last 3 episodes were great because for the whole season, ever since the beginning of the first episode, Punisher just wears black, but on episode 11, Danger Close, Frank figures out that the true villains are Billy, Russo, and Rollins, so he takes his bulletproof vest, paints his Punisher skull logo on it, and later he gets tons of guns, blades, and other equipment, and then he sets up Micro's place with traps like all of the light bulbs that he fills with gunpowder and hidden weapons for him in tight situations. So anyway, 2 Anvil soldiers disguised as police officers go to the Lieberman family and get Sarah and Zach, but Leo escapes. Frank sees it on Micro's monitors later and tells David that it is time for him to go back to them. So he sends him to get with Leo, and he stays to fight the soldiers. And that scene was one of the best fight scenes in this season because it was the first time seeing the Punisher in his suit in his solo series so far, and the awesome background music filled with the exploding light bulbs was great. And Punisher fights with tons of guns, including his assault rifle, sawed-off shotgun, etc. And when he's in a bad place, he pulls out a belt-fed machine gun and comes out to demolish all of the soldiers. And he ends it off with a shot of him carrying a decapitated head. And then the next shot is it flying in front of a group of the soldiers with a grenade strapped to it. And then it blows them all up. So earlier, right towards the beginning of the season, Castle shoots a sniper rifle at a man through a window. But it takes about 7 seconds or so for it to reach him. And then it goes out of his scope view and pulls back a long way across part of the city back to Frank. But on another part, he tries to snipe Rollins not too far out of his building, but it looks like it hits him in the head with a hole in the glass, but then he looks confused and walks away. Lights turn on, alarms go off, and Frank runs. One of the most heartbreaking and on edge scenes was episode 12, Home, where Billy and his men agree to give back Sarah and Zach in exchange for David and Frank. So they all meet up. Billy is aiming a sniper rifle at them, and Sarah and Zach have gasoline canisters strapped to their backs that soldiers cut holes in so they can walk with a gas trail. Earlier, David and Leo met up at a park and then had a nice catching up bonding scene, but this is the first time that Sarah and Zach see him alive. But then they have to keep cool and just walk past each other. Sarah tries grabbing David's arm, but he shrugs off and says it'll be okay. But then the cops arrive and everything goes haywire. The gas trail's lit up and David stops walking to put it out, but right as he does, is shot 3 times in the chest. And before that, Frank is already knocked out and gets put into the back of the van and taken away. And I had my jaw drop because by then he was one of my most favorite characters of the season, and Sarah was once again traumatized to see her husband killed a second time. But then, in an actual decent plot twist, David wakes up out of a body bag, says, was the body bag really necessary? And it turns out that he had a vest on and it was all part of their plan, and the blood that sprayed out was really just the movie prop things. So he goes back to his family at the police station, and Sarah starts punching him because she doesn't even know what is going on anymore. But the family has a nice family hug, and then they stay at the station doing stuff until further notice. And once they're all asleep, David goes to Dina, gets on her computer, and gets onto the camera that Frank turned on in a great little scene where Billy and Rollins let him put the password in to stop the timer. But then he grabs his hidden knife under the seat and stabs Rollins in the shoulder. It shows Rollins putting on his black gloves and says that it is time for his revenge on Frank and starts to punch him nonstop. And Frank just laughs and insults him until he keeps on getting knocked out to see him and his wife dancing. But later his dreams go to him and his wife having, well, and then he is almost dead by the time people start going to save him. Billy and Rollins get into an argument, and Billy helps Frank by half clipping his wrist ties, which were like reinforced zip ties or something. So then Rollins says that he's going to take one of his eyes now, and starts to slowly get the tip of his knife closer to Castle's eyes. He dreams of his wife asking him to take her hand and to come home, but he eventually denies her, and then probably the most satisfying scene begins. Frank comes back, grabs Rollins' hand right as it is flying towards his eye, headbutts him, takes his knife, stabs him in the shoulder again, gets him on the floor, stabs him like 8 more times, punches him a few more times, and then finishes him in an insanely gruesome scene where he takes his thumbs and gouges out both of his eyes while Billy just stands there in the monitor room watching him do it. But then everyone shows up to save Frank, and he is pretty much dead now. They shoot Billy, but he shoots a few of the other people and escapes. So then David and Dina take Frank to their parents, who are nurses, and they say that he is very beaten and has a broken rib. And he is just covered in blood, and his head bullet wound that David stitched up earlier is now open back up. So Dina's dad stabs Frank in the chest with a tool and sucks out blood that he was drowning on with a syringe, and he wakes back up, ready to go. Dina said that he is finally mainly off the hook, but if she sees him again, she will arrest or shoot him. Then it goes back to Billy, who has his regular weapon, a pistol with a silencer, and he is breaking out of a building a lot like Lewis broke into the hotel-type place earlier. It is probably his most awesome scene because it has a cool song with his, which is Penthouse Pauper by Bayou Country. Hopefully I pronounced all that correctly, but you should check out the song. It's pretty darn good. So once again, that is Penthouse Pupper by Bayou Country. So anyway, and the whole scene was great, but mainly the guy that got shot, but it only shows his silhouette, and the end of that scene with one of my most favorite cool guys don't look at explosion scenes, that he walks out and triggers a chain reaction of explosions. Then it is the best battle scene in the season, the final battle between Frank Castle and Billy Russo. Billy goes to the carousel place after hours and finds a boy and a girl teen that are a couple working there, and off camera cuts them somewhere and ties them to horses on the carousel as they slowly bleed out and scream. But Frank shows up. It then shows a flashback of Billy at the carousel with Frank's family, and he tells Frank's son how he thinks of himself as Billy the Kid because of how he strongly lives alone and how he is an orphan too, and of course his name is also Billy. And that was a very nice little flashback scene. Anyway, Billy turns on the carousel while Frank is hiding in the woods. Eventually he goes there, but first launches 3 grenades out of his grenade launcher, which explode right by Billy. And then they have a little gunfight, and then they both hop onto opposite sides of the carousel, and then there's an awesome standoff. But then finally Dina shows up since she figured out where they were, and then she shoots Billy, but he also shoots her. The ride stops and Frank charges at him, tackling him, where they then have an epic fist fight, then a knife fight. And it shows that they are pretty much equal strength, but eventually Frank gets the upper hand and breaks one of the mirrors with Billy's head, then stabs him in the gut right under his body armor with a broken piece of the mirror, and then says that he will feel what he did, and then repeatedly slams his head into the mirror, and then eventually slowly grinds his head against the shattered mirror, cheese grating his face as he screams horribly, and then he slams his head into it one last time, finishing him off. That was a great scene. And before all that happened, Billy woke up Curtis at his house and has a talk with him right as he dodges a sniper round that hits his coffee mug, and he goes under the windowsill, and Curtis goes behind the counter with a shot in his shoulder. Frank calls him from where he is sniping from a building nearby, and Curtis slides his phone to Billy, and him and Frank work it out for now. Anyway, it ends with Dina in a huge puddle of blood, but luckily Billy actually just skimmed her head like he did to Frank's earlier, and so she's in a hospital, and the nurses tell them that Billy will probably still live, but may not wake up with full memory or the same person. Dina says that she hopes he does, so he can remember what she did. And then it shows Billy with a full face cast, making him look pretty darn creepy, and all of that is most likely hinting that he will come back at some point in the future as one of Punisher's biggest villains named Jigsaw. And then Frank drops David back off at his house for Thanksgiving dinner, but doesn't go in with him. He just drives off in his awesome black van with all of his equipment, which is of course Punisher's van. He then finally goes back to a group therapy and starts finally talking to everyone else about his problems, and it ends with him saying, "I don't know, I guess I'm just scared." Overall, Jon Bernthal was again amazing as the Punisher, and I can't think of any other actor that could play the roles as well as he does so far. And I cannot wait to see more of him in the future. David/Micro was a great round character that gets better every episode in my opinion. Rollins was not great as one of the main villains, but for how much time and story he did have, I am surprised that his character did get a little better. Billy was absolutely great. I love how he was completely unexpected to be the main villain for most of the season, as long as you don't know too much about the Punisher comics. And how once he is the main villain after Lewis dies, he helps Frank sometimes, but at the same time is just as much as a teeth-clenching love-to-hate villain as the guys from the first episode and Rollins. And I can't wait to see him as Jigsaw whenever he does come back, and in my opinion, he's probably my favorite Marvel Netflix villain yet, because of how he was, how he was just how I just explained. But he was also used to just be a huge family friend of Frank's, and how he was his partner in war. And all of the other characters were great. My only character complaint was for the first half of the season, Dina is just another annoying detective character like Misty Knight, and a few others that every time it goes to them, you just want to get back to something else. But for the last 4 episodes or so, she does get better. So, first off, my pros. I just have to start off by saying, wow, this season was almost flawless. It had great battle choreography, cinematography, and the soundtrack was great. The Netflix Marvel shows usually nail that, but this one with the trailer song being won by Metallica matched Frank Castle's deep, dark character, and most of the songs were rock and deep bass songs, which was great. And also, along with that, Billy was an amazing villain, Rollins was okay, and Lewis was pretty darn good too. And he was very compelling. I love the montage scene towards the last couple of episodes where Frank was sitting by a canister fire with hobos and there was a rock song playing with him thinking about everything that has happened. I loved how pretty much the whole season was fully entertaining, and the first-person shots through the helmet GoPros on the soldiers during the forest battle on the Gunner episode, that was pretty darn cool. And I love his suit, but I was worried that we weren't going to see it much since he burned it on the first episode, but the montage where he was making his new one was great, and then he wears it for most of episode 11, some of episode 12, and a lot of episode 13, but mainly the final battle, which is great. And also, I love how it shows the Punisher. I mean, it went way farther with the violence and gore than I thought it was going to be, even though the other series, have way more gore in them than the MCU, since it's more kid-friendly and owned fully by Disney. But the gore on the last few episodes was insane. And some of his movies were insane, and some of his moves were insanely gruesome. Some people complain that he's not killing and gore all the time, but honestly, that would have made it worse, because if he is always just killing and the intense killing scenes happened in like every episode, there would be no build-up and all that. That is why it works so well. It makes you hate some characters so much and slowly builds up intensity, and so when the awesome killing scenes or battle scenes do happen, you get chills down your spine almost every single time, and you love them that much more. It's like if people like Superman were always just using their full abilities and being almost indestructible, it just would not work. But I could go on and on with my pros, so to finish this off, some last big things. First off, the intro was great and was my second favorite intro out of all of the series so far, just after the Defenders, but then credits of each episode was my favorite so far. But lastly, how many superheroes in the Marvel and DC properties have been beaten pretty greatly at some points, but not even Wolverine and Logan got beaten as much as Frank in this season. I was amazed by how many times Frank got beaten, mentally abused, shot, etc. throughout the season, and just kept on going. But he did sometimes get knocked out and also came very close to death, so he's still very human since he does not have any powers, of course. And mainly when he was getting beaten while tied to a chair, it was just crazy. He was losing so much blood, and just holy cow. I only have a few cons with this season. One is, of course, some of the characters like Dina and Rollins did take some time to become likable characters, and it did get kind of slow at some points, but I also thought it was kind of weird how on the first episode, it seemed like it was setting up Donnie and those other guys to be big characters throughout the season or series, but after Frank saves Donnie and kills the guys, they are never seen or spoke of again, except for a slight mention at the beginning of episode 2. And lastly, during the Lieberman family Thanksgiving dinner scene, Sarah grabs out the turkey in a deep dish pan from the oven with oven mitts, but puts it on the counter, but then takes the oven mitts off, and then just grabs out the thermometer from the turkey without even looking slightly pained, and it was cooking while in the turkey. She didn't just put it in the turkey after taking it out of the oven. So I don't know, must have just been a little mistake that wasn't noticed by the filmmakers or editors or anybody else. But honestly, that is about it. I even said that I think that the Solo season should be 8 episodes and the Defenders should 13 instead of the other way around. Or instead of the other way around. But with this one, I didn't mind, and I actually appreciated 13 episodes. Overall, it is crazy because The Defenders was my most anticipated show of all time so far. And this one, I wasn't too sure if I was even going to watch it until it actually came out on November 17th. And I believe I started watching it on like November 19th, and I believe I finished watching it in 3 days, might have been 4 days. So pretty darn more quick than all the other Marvel Netflix shows for me. But this show, I can say I actually liked a little bit more than The Defenders. Both shows are amazing in my opinion, but this one is honestly almost perfection and is probably the best superhero show of all time so far in my opinion. So yes, definitely check out Marvel The Punisher on Netflix and leave your thoughts down in the comments below. So yeah, I had tons that I wanted to say about the season, but I can't make it 5 pages and else then it would probably be my longest show or movie review yet. So I believe that I pretty much said everything that I really wanted to. So yeah, yeah, so like 3.5 pages later, that is finally it for my review for Marvel's The Punisher. So again, definitely check it out. I absolutely loved it. It was so good. So yeah, and even if you don't want to watch it, at least search up like some of the battle scenes, or like just search up and watch like some footage on YouTube of it or whatever, just so you can get a taste of it and maybe decide to watch it if you weren't planning on it at first. But yeah, so now on with the rest of the day vlog. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for this part of the day vlog. So now on to the next part. Okay guys, so next up is right there. So yeah, as most of you guys probably know, I collect Pops. Again, I have my first one right there, Iron Patriot from Iron Man 3. And I got that one from the December 2014 anniversary Loot Crate Batman Joker. And I got that one from the CenturyLink Field Pro Shop in Seattle. My favorite player from my favorite sports team, of course, Richard Sherman from the Seattle Seahawks. And then I have Sam I Am, my favorite Dr. Seuss character. But now, instead of 4 Pops, I actually have 6. And these, honestly, even though they are pretty darn simple, are probably my favorite Pops yet. And, these are probably my only Pops that I was actually, like, anticipated and saw not too long after they came out. And, got them not too long after they came out. But if you don't know La La Land, it is I believe it's like my 4th favorite movie. I can't remember. I've seen insane amount of movies. But yeah, it is. I absolutely love this movie. It's right next to Whiplash, which is also, I believe, in my top 6 favorite movies or so. But I like this a little bit more than Whiplash. But of course, I have it right there. I've talked about that quite a bit. But yeah, so these actually came out. That movie came out in late 2016, I believe. But these came out just in October 2017, so not an insane amount, a long time ago, just over a month ago, actually. But yeah, so basically, I posted on Instagram a picture of these, because I actually just now saw these on, the internet a couple of weeks ago, and I just was amazed, and I was just like, wow, they actually made pop figures of Mia and Sebastian, the main characters from La La Land, and I posted it on Instagram, and I was just like, I need these. So, about a week and a half ago, my family went to, Barnes & Noble, and I was looking around at the Pops, and they're having a big sale and everything, and I found these, and they were only $20, which I think is completely worth it, because, of course, it is my first ever, Pop 2-pack, and I just absolutely wanted these, so I was so happy when I found them. But yeah, so of course, it just says 2-pack right there. It says Mia and Sebastian up there, Pop Movies, and then of course La La Land right there with both of them right there. And yeah, so first off, there's Mia, the first Pop, and they're in their this is from the most iconic dance scene from the film. Of course, the song is a Lovely Night, and of course it's based off of that scene. Of course, with their pretty much dance moves right there and everything. So yeah, but so it's not my like favorite dance scene from the movie, but it's probably for dance scenes it's probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, honestly. But yeah, my favorite scene is probably like the ending montage type thing. But anyway, you can just see that. Of course, Mia right there. Of course, played by Emma Stone, and then Ryan Gosling as Sebastian. So yeah, so Mia, of course, has the little eyebrows, and she's also my first ever girl Pop, because the others are, boys, of course. So yeah, but basically, you can just see Mia right there with her eyelashes and orange hair and everything, and then if you look back there, she actually has a little necklace, nice little detail, and then the flowers on her yellow dress are really cool little details, and then her little dance shoes, and then, Sebastian over here, of course, has his facial hair, and then his nice suave hair there. And then I love this hand right there. You can probably barely see it. Oh, there you go. You can see it actually has a little ring and a little watch. And then he even has a little decoration on his tie. And just his little suit with his dance shoes. And then I didn't even know that they came with these until I opened up the box. And they are kind of hard to see because of the clear plastic, of course. But I saw these 2 little plastic circles, and they actually came with little stands, which just have one little peg on them that actually peg into one of their feet. So I don't know how well Sebastian would stand without a stand. Of course, he might be able to stand somewhat well, but I don't really know, but her, I'm pretty darn sure she would not be able to because her feet are pretty darn small. But yeah, you can just see both of them have stands, so it's not huge, but of course it's a nice little addition. And I kept the box not only because I really love the box, and the only other one I kept is that, of course, since it's pretty darn special, and I wrote where it's from on top of it. But also, if you can probably like barely see that, but in the background it actually has the background from that scene, which is of course the kind of like Los Angeles skyline. Which you can barely see. There you go, a little bit. But that pole right there, you can see the little light pole, and then the little skyline right there with the mountains, and then the Los Angeles skyline. So you can barely see it, but I just really love that little addition in there. So yeah, so very, very happy I got those. The helicopter thing that I had on there, I just moved to there for now, and then I just have that there. So that I really love. That's one of my most favorite displays in my room, for stuff at least that I didn't make. But yeah, I just love how that is. So that's pretty big part of this day vlog. Really, really love those. And while we were at Barnes & Noble, I also picked up the newest Diary of a Wimpy Kid book. So if I didn't mention this before when I was showing that I got Double Down, this is the last Diary of a Wimpy Kid book that I'm getting, and honestly, I kind of think that it might be the last one. Because if you guys don't know, all of the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, like the back of them just look like that with like the rating or the like reviews and stuff. And then on the inside of like every single one, they always like show all the other books, and then it says like coming soon, more Diary of a Wimpy Kid. But for the first time out of the whole series, this one just has that on the back, and it just says read them all. And then on the inside, I was very surprised to see this, but it literally just says the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series with the 12 books, and then more Diary of a Wimpy Kid books, and it doesn't say anything about coming soon. I could not find any answers for sure online, and I searched for quite a while, but this may be the last one, so I was just like, wow, I might have made a good choice to get my last one. The reason this is my last one that I'm getting is because, one, I have every single one of like the books in the series that has come out so far, all 12 books. And then I have the movie diary and the do-it-yourself book, and the only book that I don't have is the second movie diary, because none of the movies are really that good at all. But the long haul, I haven't even seen it, but I can just say that it got lower ratings than the first three, and that one's probably the worst. And that's this one's about the making of the first three, of course, but the new one is literally just about the making of the long haul. Although that's my most favorite Diary of a Wimpy Kid book so far. I don't even plan on ever seeing the movie. But that's the good thing about this one, is that one's, like the first, one, like, completely about a family road trip. But this one is about, a family trip to, like, a tropical island. I haven't read it yet. I will read it in a little bit, but I've actually been reading this book. And I am going to read that book after that, but I'm just reading this book, that my dad let me borrow, and it's the Manhattan Hunt Club. So I'm about a third of the way through it. But yeah, so I'm just getting to the good part of that and everything. Yeah, so once I get done reading that, I will read this. But that book's like that's like 3,500 pages. This is, of course, always 217 pages. But the good thing about this book is, also, not only is it probably my favorite cover out of any of the books, but it's also my favorite colors, because you guys know my favorite color is like cyan, which is pretty much like of a wimpy kid right there. That color is pretty much exactly cyan. And then I really love that blue also, and then mixed with like my second favorite color, lime green. Overall, I just love the colors more than any of the other books. And then also I love the color things on the getaway, like the red mixed with yellow and green. And then that's the cover right there. And then the back, I just love like how they just put all the books right there. And yeah, and all that. And then the sticker, of course, being an exclusive edition free bonus print inside it. This one is a Barnes & Noble exclusive edition, which basically just comes with this little print in the back, and it's just like a little postcard, and it says season's greeting from the Heffleys, and then he's colored because I'm guessing he's like sunburnt or something, and then the back just says happy holidays from our family to yours. And so yeah, so I might slightly give my thoughts on that whenever I end up reading that. Yeah, my only other one that's like exclusive and comes with a print is the third wheel, which it comes with like an extra couple pages of like Fregley's secret note. Yeah, so that is that. So I'll put my trophies back real quick, and then I will be right back. Okay, so next up is finally another movie collection update. which isn't huge, but basically, of course, a part of the intro was my Black Friday stuff, or I mean Thanksgiving stuff. So that night, last year, at about 6 o'clock, because at my Target, 6 o'clock, Black Friday starts, and then it goes till 12, and I usually try going like right around 6. And last year I went, and it was just pretty much like a little more busy than it is usually when I just go there. So it was just pretty much in and out, and I got a few things if you watched last year. But this year it was like the first time I went Black Friday shopping, and I've only been like one actual like Black Friday shopping, and then I went last year and this year. But I absolutely I'm pretty darn claustrophobic when it comes to like huge crowds and people being obnoxious and like shoving past and everything. But only one woman kind of brushed me with her cart and stuff, and she was kind of shoving through. But this year the line went in and out of the lines and stuff, or the aisles and all that. And this guy was holding balloons, and it said line starts here and everything. So it was a bit more chaotic this year. But the line actually moved a lot faster than I thought. My big brother, I went there about 6:30, and my big brother and my dad stopped by real quick to check on me in there, and because he was looking for something too. And my big brother was just like, well, I'll see you at 12 o'clock, and I was just like, well, if I'm gonna wait there for like an hour, I'll just come home. But honestly, I was waiting in line for about 40 minutes, so it got moving pretty darn quick. But one of them is my DC collection, which of course currently starts there and goes now to there, which is Wonder Woman, of course, which I'll show you in a second. And then the other one is the Hunger Games Complete 4-Film Collection, which I put right above the Hunger Games book trilogy. So I'll show those real quick and get them both down for you guys. Okay, so yeah, so here's Wonder Woman. If you watched a few day vlogs ago, I said that this was my favorite DCEU film so far. Because the other ones none of them are really that great, but this one was actually pretty darn decent, and I actually liked it quite a bit. But of course now if you watch the last vlog type thing, I said that Justice League was not my favorite DCEU film, but it's tied with this one. So currently Wonder Woman and Justice League are tied for my favorite DCEU films so far, not DC films, DCEU. But yeah, so I just got on DVD. Basically, this was a really good deal. I got one of the last 2 copies that was there, and this one was going pretty quick. But yeah, it's just DVD. But why I got it is because when I like this movie, but Marvel and DC and like Marvel and DC and Disney and all that, pretty much when they come out, they're pretty much like more expensive than most movies when they first come out on physical media. But then over the years, they never drop in price like most movies. So that was kind of the problem with this, is I wanted to get it, but it was still like $22 just for DVD, which usually it's like $17 nowadays just for DVD. Yeah, so basically normally this one I believe is $19, but it was actually I believe can't remember how many dollars off. Or yeah, about $11. So this was actually about $9.50. So instead of $19, I got it for $9, and I thought that was very, very good. So I picked that up right away. Spine's pretty darn simple. It just says Wonder Woman right there. Pretty darn cool cover. I really like. Of course, the DC stamp right there, and then Wonder Woman right there. And then the back just has Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor, Wonder Woman in her dress, and then some of can't remember what they're called, the women from Wonder Woman's home island place. But yeah, so that is the back. And then inside, it's actually 2 discs, and I'll tell you in a second. But that is the disc for just the Wonder Woman feature film. But then if you flip it over, it actually comes with a second disc, which is a whole extra disc just for special features. So I don't usually watch special features except for like the really special ones like Guardians Inferno on the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 Blu-ray DVD and Digital HD. But yeah, so it comes with more than 2 hours of bonus content. So I picked that up, and then I will go get the Hunger Games Complete 4-Film Collection right now. Okay, so here is the Hunger Games Complete 4-Film Collection. I do have, on my movie poster wall, I have a poster of a little collage of all 4 posters for all 4 movies. But this was not on sale, but it was $15, which, I mean, even though these all came out a little while ago now, $15 for all 4 movies and a complete disc, separate disc for each movie for special features, over 14 hours of bonus features. I thought that was just really great. So I was going to get a few other movies, but I just thought like those weren't on sale, and they were like $5, but they weren't on sale. So I just figured like when I get some more money, I can just go back there and get those in the near future. But this one was going pretty darn quick. Although it wasn't on sale, it was still going out pretty darn quick. So I just picked this up while I still could, and then I will just pick up those other movies in a little bit. Yeah, so here it is. I'm not a ginormous fan of this series. The first one is pretty darn good. The Catching Fire is probably my favorite one. That one was pretty darn good. Mockingjay Part 1 was okay, but it did seem, although Mockingjay Part 1 and Part 2 are the shortest of the series, they seem like the longest of the series. Mockingjay Part 1 was pretty long and got kind of boring after a while, and Part 2 was a little worse, I think, but overall they're pretty decent movies, I would say, and I believe my dad has seen the first three. I've seen all of them, of course. I believe all of them in theaters except for the first two. Yeah, so I've seen all of them. I've seen the first one, I believe, 2 or 3 times, and the second one, I believe, 2 times. But the 3 and 4, just 1 time each. But my mom, I think she's seen the first one and maybe the second one, but she still wants to see the rest of them. So she was just like, okay, I can watch the rest of them. So whenever she chooses to do that, she can watch the rest of these. I believe my little brother's seen all of them, but yeah, so overall, this is the front cover. Really love the front cover, how it just has like all the little Mockingjay emblems for all of them, and then the Hunger Games complete 4-film collection with Katniss right there. Carries on to the spine right there with her arrows continuing from her quiver, and then that is the other side. And then the back, of course, just explains all the discs and has some scenes and everything. But then that is just one ginormous slipcover, so you can see how thick that thing is. And yeah, so I'll explain a little bit more on that in a couple of minutes. But then yeah, so that is the spine. On the back, it just shows all the like things for all 4 movies on the back there, and then it basically just opens up like regular, but of course with a giant DVD box, which is kind of hard to open backwards like that. But you can see it opens like that. You can see all of the insane flipping things. Yeah, so there it is. That is the disc for the Hunger Games. The first one, the feature film, and it just has Katniss right there. Second disc is bonus features for the first one with the Mockingjay pin. The first one, Catching Fire, has feature film disc, has PETA on it. Second disc is, of course, Catching Fire special features with the next emblem. The third movie has I cannot remember his name, but he's like Katniss. He's like Katniss's hunting partner and stuff. But Mockingjay Part 1, and that's the feature film disc with him on it. And then second one is, of course, the third emblem for special features of Mockingjay Part 1. And then Mockingjay Part 2 has, gosh, I cannot remember her name either. But she's like Katniss's kind of stylist type person. Yeah, so that's Mockingjay Part 2 feature film disc. And then the last disc is Mockingjay Part 2 special features. So you kind of have to be careful. You have to flip them like one at a time, else then it kind of gets stuck when you're closing it back up. But lots of that. So overall, I was looking at Target a couple months ago, and I was looking for like all of the like separate movies on their own DVDs, and they're like $5 each, and I could just like find everyone except for like Catching Fire. But I did want to get like the whole series on DVD. But I'm so happy that Target got this, because like it's just all 4 movies, plus 14 hours of special features, or over 14 hours of special features in this awesome box. And I mean $15 for all 4 movies plus for over 14 hours of special features, which if I did that other plan that I had, that would have been 5 times 4, so that would have been $20. So it would have been $5 more for just the movie, each movie plus digital HD. But this was each movie plus digital HD for each movie, plus over 14 hours of special features. So yeah, so that is that. And then the other reason why I don't have it like actually in my movie collection is because the box is like not as wide as 2 DVD boxes. It's like kind of weird width. It's like the width of like a DVD box and like half a Blu-ray box or something like that. It's kind of weird. And that's also the reason why I don't have my Forrest Gump thing in there, because of course I showed that quite a while ago, but that one is a like old special collector's edition, And basically you can see there's like two tabs in it. One side opens for the feature film, and then the other side opens for a special features disc. But this one, of course, I learned is the same exact width as the Forrest Gump thing. So they're just very awkward and mess up like the tightness and like looseness and whatever else of my movies and everything. But so yeah, so it just stands on its own. I didn't even need to make a stand for this one like I did for Forrest Gump, mainly because of the slipcover and everything. But basically just put it right there, right above that. So that looks pretty darn good right there. But that is it for my updated movie collection for my Black Friday this year. Okay, so guys, now I just have to show this, which is pretty much my, if you haven't seen it, I haven't showed it for a very long time, but my little bottle collection thing up here. So yeah, so basically I haven't got one of those for quite a while, ever since my Great Falls Hastings shut down, like last year, quite a while ago now. But they were like the only store that I know of that sold the Japanese soda things. But we went to this little, like, before the Parade of Lights actually tonight, the Parade of Lights 2017, we went into this little, like, kind of game store type place, and they actually had those, so we just got those, because they had two new flavors that we haven't had yet, and Brayton got melon, and I got raspberry, which I can say is probably my favorite flavor out of the three I've had, but they are still not that great. Towards the end of that one, again, I still had to like plug my nose and guzzle it back because I just started kind of getting gaggy with it, because it's kind of like if you just drink the slobber pouring out of a kid's mouth after they got done sucking on a Jolly Rancher or something. So yeah, I'm sorry if I just made you like throw up right now. But yeah, so of course I just have my Diet Coke thing right there with the limited edition like art kind of things. But now I have three Japanese sodas bottles: the peach flavor, blueberry flavor, and raspberry flavor. And of course, if you don't know how those work, you pop this little piece out of the cap with the little green cap that comes onto the plastic that you take off of the top, and then that piece that you pop out of the cap, you basically just push down on the little marble, and then it's just like juice. But once you pop the marble out, it like pops really loud, and basically all the carbonation is released with the pressure and everything, and then the marble just stays in there. So if you like tip it upside down, it like stops it, but the marble still can't get out. It just like stops the liquid from getting out. So yeah, so pretty cool how it works. But yeah, and then of course I just have the three Mountain Dew labels, and then my little Lego Movie Emmett and Batman cups from McDonald's back when that came out. And then my Mountain Dew USA, I believe that's limited edition from like this past summer, 2017 summer. Okay guys, so then the other thing for now is a new custom Lego minifigure that I made a couple days ago. I believe I was on like episode 3 or something when I made this of the Punisher. But by then I knew that I really wanted to make this. So yeah, so quite a while ago, of course, when I was watching The Defenders, of course, I made the whole Marvel The Defenders team with Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Daredevil, and Jessica Jones, of course, there. But my newest ones up until now, of course, were Spider-Man and Black Panther back there. But now, of course, I have made the Punisher. So for all of like the main Netflix Marvel show superheroes, I have now made pretty much all of them, because Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and the Punisher are the Netflix Marvel show characters to have their own solo season, and then of course the Defenders. Yeah, so there is the Punisher. I made him, of course, a couple of days ago, or like a few days ago. Yeah, so he's not like insanely accurate, not my best custom guy, but he's still pretty darn good. But I would say for like accuracy, he's probably like my most accurate, just Iron Fist, like his face and everything. But yeah, so just a little zoom in. I will include some pictures to show him a little bit better in a second. But for a stand, I just made a stand with a little like platform with a little curved white piece that says the Punisher, and then his little logo in the background there, with him standing up there. And then there he is. I basically took one of the hair pieces, kind of like his, kind of like Iron Fist, but I shaved down the little like bangs. I shaved those down a little bit, and I sanded it around to kind of make it like John Bernthal's a little bit more. And then I dirtied up his face with like some black permanent marker, and then kind of just like rubbed it around to make him look like he's been through, like he had like, because whenever he like puts a suit on, he also puts like this like black faced kind of stuff on. And so that's kind of what that is. And then you can see I put a little, like, kind of a little bit bloody wounds on both sides of his face. So yeah, so that looks pretty good. And I just used, like, one of the newer Clone Trooper faces for him. And then I used a vest. I can't remember from what series, but I used a vest and colored it black. And then if you can kind of see that, I actually kind of scraped it off a little bit. You can probably barely see that, but there's two little circles for like little bolts on one of his pockets. And then on the side, I actually super glued a little black his gun, and that clip are actually in the little sack bag thing on his other leg are actually from the Mega Bloks Call of Duty guys. But yeah, so on that leg he's got an extra magazine, and then on that side he's got a little pouch, just to make him look a little more tactical and everything like in the show. And yeah, his vest. And then that part was probably the most tedious and hard part. Actually, that's paper to make the Punisher logo, and on the show it's actually kind of like of course just spray painted on there and kind of tattered and everything. So it's like multiple pieces that I had to cut out. So I actually cut out like the main part right there, but then that piece right there and below that are actually separate pieces of paper that were like so small, and I cut them out with X-Acto knives, or with my X-Acto knife kit. And yeah, and then I super glued that on there and then tattered out with some black permanent marker. But overall that turned out pretty darn well. And then his gun is of course a Mega Bloks gun that I actually took off a scope from a from a Clone Trooper Star Wars blaster, and super glued that on the top just to make it look like kind of like one of his machine guns. And yeah, so can't really see him too well how I'm showing him right now. So I will include some pictures right now, but after this. But yeah, so that is the Marvel the Defenders and the Punisher. So that looks really great. And here are the pictures right now. So yeah, you can just see him in a little better light with some good little extra detailing that you can't really see when I was showing him just a second ago. But yeah, so I believe that is pretty much everything that I need to show with him. So yeah, I believe that is pretty much it.